slideshow for this call. And if you got questions, just stop me and interrupt. Remember, on my screen, I can't see anything except for, right now it says Wrestling Australia, January 8th. We're going to focus on the development camp in February. So it's going to go a little more basic, but last time you guys had asked for some more technical aspects. So I did put that in there. I've still got some of the 201 course and some of the 202 course and a little bit of the high performance coaching in here. So there's a little mix as well. Just to continue to reiterate the pathway for coaches. Any education is better than no education. Coach responsibilities. So there's a lot of responsibilities that a coach has. There's a big umbrella. Within that, there is a technical side to coach's responsibility. Three of these particular technical side of things that I want to hit on this week or on this call are recovery, parterre defense, and spin defense. These are things that I went over when I was there. These are things that we've went over and covered briefly on the calls. I want to give you some more options and maybe some more tools to throw in your tool belt to help coaching recovery, coaching parterre defense, coaching spin defense. And when I say recovery, this could be mental or physical, and this could also be recovery for that athlete that's just trying the sport out for the first time. And maybe they don't know if they want to do it or not. Maybe they're trying it out. Maybe they're the 6-year-old that's coming in that just mom and dad want some exercise. What's that recovery piece look like for them as well? And then we'll get into some more of the technical side of things with parterre defense and spin defense. So first, let's talk a little bit about recovery. Obviously, even when I run camps for our 4, 5, and 6-year-olds here, we always have a snack. When we play sports here in America, a lot of times, and I've seen it in other countries, you get the oranges at a soccer game or at a rugby game at halftime. You put in some quick fuel, some quick, simple fruits, simple sugars. Some of those things get the carbohydrates in there, maybe a little bit of protein, but not high fiber at that point in time. But fueling is obviously successful. It's shown that statistically. 2, sleep. Ultimate performance enhancer is obviously sleep, right? Your high performance athletes have to feel safe, and definitely when you get quality sleep, that's it. The proper REM cycles, we won't go in through any of that stuff tonight, but I've got a huge presentation on just REM cycles and the importance of getting all the way through one. Active recovery, just moving to heal. Statistics have shown swimming, especially for those younger athletes. I highly encourage those athletes after we get done with a wrestling practice, hey, run across. Now there's a gym, there's a pool right across from the gym. So we could throw our athletes, hey, go in there and let's swim a little bit, just go and play. And that's, the next day, hey, if we have training on Monday, then maybe on Tuesday morning, then we're hitting a swim. Our more elite athletes, obviously it's the same thing. Then they can get in a light, bicycle, some swimming, some yoga, those things. And so, that's definitely a big active recovery. A hike, just taking a hike, just walking the beach. You guys have the luxury of the beach. I'm 20 hours from a beach. I think closest beach is 14 hours away from me through driving. So, but if you have a beach close, just walking the beach, that's definitely active recovery. Massage, foam rolling, that's probably more for your advanced or your older athletes. You're 14 years up above. If you're a 15U, 17U, then you're starting to get into a little bit of that foam rolling and the kneading the tension away, getting a lactic acid, hitting certain target groups of your muscular groups. At the same time, just to release tension. A big thing in here in America has been like suctioning and the suction cups. And some of that came right after Michael Phelps and the Olympics. And, so, that was kind of like when it kind of hit a big peak of everybody. I saw everybody with suction cups trying to get the blood, spread out. And there is some science with that as well on the muscle recovery. Mindfulness, meditation, just mental rejuvenation. This doesn't just go for the athlete. All of these also go for the coach as well. Right? We're on our feet, we're planning, we're thinking, we're constantly going. A lot of times our sleep is deprived. A lot of times our nutrition is deprived because we're on the go all the time. And the same time is just being mindful of that. Another piece that I talked about when I was down in Australia a month ago was even the officials. I'm on the officials all the time up here about making sure that they're mindfulness to get the nutrition throughout the day. The championship match is at the end of the tournament, and that's when they need to be at their peak. They need to be feeling the best. And so if they come into the tournament and then they start, working officiating the tournament all day long, and then they don't have any nutritional recovery, they're not ready to go, and they're not at their peak performance because they don't have the caloric intake to sustain that. So those are all pieces of the recovery. Again, I'll hit it in a different way from a different source. Active recovery workouts. Rest is crucial. Incorporating the light, low intensity workouts. That's going to hit some of the nervous system that don't overload the body. Sleep hygiene, obviously, proper sleep. That's that foundation piece. Nutrition, hydration, obviously it's pivotal. Stress management. Stress. One of the things that we do with our athletes quite a bit is they're younger athlete. Maybe they're not ready for that high level volume, or they're not ready for that high, national tournament or high performance tournament or training camp yet, but we put them in that environment that causes stress on them. Right. And so that's some sympathetic dominance. There's that incorporate stress reduction techniques. So meditation, some of those things. We do a lot of breathing up here. I showed some of those breathing and mindfulness of that when I was down there. Definitely some athletes saw some significant difference in their performance once they did some of the breathing techniques that I showed them. And they saw the recovery piece right away, almost instantly, just with learning how to breathe and what the mind does with that, the power of the mind, right? Professional guidance. Obviously, if you got a sports psychologist or a coach who specializes in recovery, those are going to help significance. That's not the case in everything. I don't know that, a 5 or a 6-year-old that we're going to be working with a sports psychologist there, but we are going to do some sports psychology with them. We're going to teach them to have fun in the sport and learn to love to train, not to learn to hate conditioning, right? There's a difference there. Adapt your training plan. Obviously, your training regimen. This is all part of that periodization plan, the deload weeks, the active recovery days, so on and so forth. Bottom line here is listening to your body, and you got to adjust your training plan accordingly. Supplements are a big thing, especially nowadays. And a lot of my high school kids are starting to take supplements, and I try to stress that they are a supplement. They're there to supplement when you can't get enough of the steak or the eggs or the protein in that way, or the chicken or the fish. Then if you can't get enough through the proper nutrition, then we supplement that with a protein shake or whatever. That's a protein supplement. A lot of times I'm flying or I'm driving and I'm on the road a lot and I can't get quality nutrition in. I'll supplement that with a meal replacement shake. Body work, massage. We talked about quite a bit of that. Same thing. They're saying this is from getphysical.com. You see that source listed down below. And these are basically similar to the other ones that I just showed. This is just a different source. Same thing, getting that massage, getting that lactic acid worked out throughout the body. Any questions with some of the recovery tips that I showed real quick? I think they're pretty general. Yep.
The breathing techniques, that's interesting. Now, how can we pick up on that?
Yeah. So first thing, I'll start with this. So basic tip, and there's Neurotraining is a website. If you go to Neurotraining, and I can't remember if it's .com or .org. Let me see my card here. I've got a card there, but so it's the importance of learning how to breathe. So a prime example is, and it's actually neurotrainingeducation.com. So neurotrainingeducation.com. I'll put a plug in for them because they've taught me so much. And so a lot of times from a coach's corner, when a coach is tired, what is your response? What do you tell? And I want to listen for a little bit. What are some of the techniques that you use to get a wrestler who's out of breath to get going again?
My first comment would be to breathe out.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, I don't have that much experience in that. That'd be my first step is to breathe out, concentrate on breathing outwards.
Sure. So there's also a significant difference in concussion protocol. And so I'm going through a training right now on learning how your breath and how your breathing reduces your risk to have a concussion. And so you're exactly right. When you said to breathe out, that's exactly it. A lot of coaches, when I listen to them coach, they're like, take a deep breath, relax, relax. Well, if you're taking a deep breath, that's the exact opposite, right? If you're breathing out, that's going to slow everything down. That's going to slow the heart rate down, allow you to think clearly. And so there's a lot of training that we did where you take your thumb to your pinky and you scroll it in, and there's some tests and there's some measurements that I can do with you. If you want to hop on, like I said, let's hop on a call separate from this. And I can show you some principles of just breathing and the neural pathways that your brain has to get to your extremities that will open up not just mobility, right? But confidence. Obviously, now I'm doing some research and I'm doing some studying on concussion protocol with just the way that we breathe. So if you breathe in for 4 seconds, some of the techniques that I was using down there when I was with them, they had their first match. They had maybe a 2 out of 3 with somebody. Then after their first match, then they would just breathe in for 3 seconds, hold it for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, and just kind of make that triangle. Then I would have them make a square. So they would breathe in for 3 seconds, hold it for 3, breathe out for 3, hold it for 3, and just make that square, right? And so just some of the neural pathways of just breathing and calming the body down and the recovery, and how fast the recovery is. And at the same time, being able to think clearly and process so you're not overstimulating the mind. But so many things with breathing, so many things, and I can put you in direct contact with neuro training and with Coach Clayton and those guys that are doing this. It's a combat instructor who actually came up with it. He was a veteran, a war veteran, and he was just talking about if you're in a match, it's you're in the front line, right? And your mind's going 20 million different ways. How do you calm down? How do you think clearly? And it all comes through your breath. And so that's basically what his training is. But that's also a big piece of the recovery. If I can think clearly, I can tell you what hurts on my body. When somebody's hyperventilating, they're not going to think clearly and tell you everything, right? They're not going to be able to communicate clearly. And so it's the same thing there.
Okay.
So did that answer your question?
It does. I was just thinking of my 5-year-old niece. She needs some of that training to breathe out and to slow down and to think clearly.
Yeah. And so your 5-year-old niece that's going crazy, I've got a 10-year-old daughter that's ADHD and she's all over the place, right? And one of the things that we do with her so we can slow down and have a conversation is she breathes out longer than she breathes in. So I tell her, breathe in for 2, hold it for 1, breathe out for 4. And we just do that. So she's breathing out twice as long as she's breathing in. And we just concentrate on breathing. And then it's crazy because usually within about 5 cycles of that,
Yep.
now she's doing it.
Yep.
And then we can have a conversation.
Yep.
And so it's a quick reset. And so with my athletes at the high school level on the world team, we did this. Jordan Rainey won a world title. And right in the middle of, there was a review, button was hit, challenge was there. During the challenge, he was doing breathing with me on the side. You can go back to the championships and watch it. He's doing breathing on the side. We come out, we score right away instantly. If you watch the other kid's action, he's listening to the coach. The coach is giving him 500 techniques. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying there was a difference in coaching strategies at that point. I was trying to calm my athlete down so he could recover and think clearly and engage on the task at hand and go right to his game plan. I don't know what the other coach was saying because I didn't understand that language, but at the same time, there's definitely a difference in body language. There's definitely a difference in heart rate when they started.
Yep.
So that was one of the tactical strategies, was just breathing, and that's a piece of the recovery tactical strategy.
Okay.
Anything else on that on tactical side of recovery before we go on to parterre?
Just to comment on your supplements, I liked your comment, to your athletes that they're supplements. They're not the key.
Yep.
I'll keep that in mind because I've got one of my wrestlers is maybe overdoing it on the supplement side, and I've just got to pull him up on it a little bit, and this is a way of doing that.
Yeah, and I see a lot of athletes, especially with my age group, with the high school age group. Anyways, they come in and they've got their protein shake and they've got their pre-lift or their pre-workout, and then they got their post-workout, and they're living on on these, and it's like, you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you look at these guys, if you look at these high level athletes, Jordan Burroughs, Jaden Cox, you look at Yazdani, you look at all of these guys, and girls that are, you look at Japan's women's team. If you study them, it's nutrition, right? Like there's a science behind it. It's fuel for your body, and a supplement, right, is that's a different version of the gas going into the body. And so we talk quite a bit about that with our athletes. Just eat. Their metabolism's going, eat, watch what we put in, but it's weight management. It's not a weight cut. It's weight management. And supplements affect the weight management 100%. So awesome. Parterre defense. Obviously, I'll share this link with these. There's also gut wrench defense on this. I think, and this is the mental side of coaching, tactical side to parterre defense, and why parterre defense is so important is it gives you another shot. It gives you another shot to fight. It gives you another chance to win the match. That's the beauty of wrestling, is if you can get stood back up, say you get taken down, and you have great parterre defense and nobody can turn you, that's one of the biggest tools in your tool belt. Because if people can take you down but they can't turn you, then they're going to have to get at least 5 takedowns, right, to win the match in freestyle. They're going to have to get 4 takedowns in Greco to have superiority and end the match, right? Now, if you just get pinned, if you have no parterre defense, that match is over in 15 seconds. They're going to take you down and they're going to turn you and run you right out, whether it's Greco, whether it's freestyle, whether it's a leg lace, whether it's gut wrench. If you can't defend it, the match is over the second you get taken down or the second you get put down. And if you're in a Greco match, right, if you go back to statistics and the statistics of the Olympics, you go back to the statistics of the World Championships, the majority of the points are coming from parterre. And it's because we get put down. There's passivity call, somebody gets put down. Now, all of a sudden, if you've got no parterre defense or your parterre defense is poor, you're going to get scored on or the match is going to be over. So tactically, from the mental side, we preach a ton right now, or I have been a ton of we've got to have parterre defense, right? That's priority because it gives us anybody randomly, most people can hit a head and arm. They can hit the Hail Mary, right? They can hit that lat drop. They can hit these throws, right? That's what they're going for. In the last ditch effort, I'm losing. I'm about to get tech falled. I'm about to get superiority. I'm getting ready to lose. So I can hit the Hail Mary. And if I can pin them, great. But I don't get a chance to throw the Hail Mary without parterre defense. So defending leg lace, obviously, hopefully you recognize Chamizo. So he's just talking about once you get taken down, you can read the subtitles. First defense, first focus. Keep your head up. Keep your hips down. I'll start kids in this spot and see if they can get a leg lace. And I'll just have the other kid get in the base just on hands and knees. And we'll just work this. One person's trying to get a lace. Knees wide, right? Knees wide, weight back. So he's saying that same thing, right? Like once you get taken down, and we do a lot of takedown turns here in repetition fashion. But at the same time, we also do takedown, don't go down, right? Even though you've already given up the two, post your hands, get your weight back, separate your knees, concentrate on those knees wide. Here's another version of a leg lace defense where he's already been taken down. And he talks briefly about a 2-minute video here. It's really good. Same position, right? Same position Chamizo is in.
Coach, we can't do that here.
What was that?
We can't do that here. We can't grab the fingers.
Well, they're going to tell you to open. They're going to tell you to open. You grab fingers and stop it, then they're going to yell open. They're going to yell open, open, and then you've got to let go of the fingers and come back up.
The regulations say that you, under no circumstance can we grab the fingers.
When you're in the middle of this position, if you reach down, stop that, stop it, let go. He's holding it here in this position, right? But in a match, he's just going to stop it. And then that's going to allow his knee to slide up, and then he's let go of it. So technically, he's hitting it away. He's not grabbing it, if that makes sense. For this right here, he's there. Yeah.
We've got different referees here.
I know that, and I noticed that when I was down there. I noticed that when I was down there for sure. But if you go at the world level and you come down and you grab a hand and release it, you're not going to get called for it. You can go back to Worlds, you can watch it. I mean, and let me make a note of that. I'll get some clips where, especially if you watch Greco, when they get a gut, you'll see the ref yelling at them, open, open, open. Because they'll grab hands, they'll stop hands, and they'll separate the hands and get their belly down back to the mat before.
Yep.
Right. So, let me, I'm going to make a note because I want to get clips of this. So yes, you are 100% correct. Technically, you have to stay open and you cannot do that. However, if you buy a split second to get your knee up and get out of position and get out of the lace, okay. So, I'll finish this out.
I'm correct in what I'm saying, but I coach differently, especially in the collar ties. I'll coach the guys to reach up and to peel those fingers off and to let go.
Yep.
I mean, I coach that. I understand what you're saying. It's just by the rules, we're not allowed to actually grab those fingers.
You can't grab and hold on 100%.
We can't grab.
What's that?
We can't grab. That's the whole point. And I brought this up. I've just completed the referees clinic only 3-4 weeks ago, and I specifically asked him about that, and he said you are not allowed to grab the fingers at all. If a move eventuates from that, you've accomplished that maneuver through an illegal move, and he would pull you up on that. He said he would.
Right. Now, who's this?
This is our Stefan,
You know,
I can't remember his
in
last.
Australia.
Hi.
Yeah, from Australia.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He's from Adelaide.
Yep.
He's the instructor from Adelaide.
Sure. Sure. Awesome. Yeah. No, and that's great that you're getting trained through in officiating. Like I'm an official. I make all of my assistant coaches are all officials. And we have that for many reasons. One, it grows the sport, but two, so that way we're in their spot, right? We know what they're looking for. We know what they're trying to. And at the same point in time, we also know what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah.
And so you're right. You can't grab the hands. And if that's per rule, and I'll have to look more into that with Australia because I'll be 100% honest. I don't know if that rule is different, but I'm telling you at the World Championships, if you grab a hand right there and you knock it off and you get your foot up, they're probably not calling you anything for that. And I'll get clips. That's what I made note of. I want to get clips of the World Championship showing this.
I see it all the time. You're right. In practice,
yeah,
you're right.
Yep. Yep. And I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying this is one of the techniques that is most commonly used for a basic lace defense.
Yep.
That you'll see this, that's I'm trying to give some tactical moves that we see regularly. And there's also a great counter. If he reaches and grabs my hand on this, there's also a great way to get a lace in and get that called.
Yeah.
I can bait him to get that called as well if he reaches. So that's another.
Just another quick comment then. With coming up onto all fours, aren't you opening yourself up to a gut wrench?
Yeah. So if you come up to all fours, two things, and that's what Max was saying here, was if you know that you can stop the guy's gut wrench, yes. The other thing is if you're a really good floater, you know what I'm talking about when I say a floater, where a high leg over.
Oh, yes.
So where you stay belly down, right?
Yes.
So if you go to gut wrench me and I'm really fast and I have really good timing of going forward and high legging over or creating space and stepping over and stopping that to where I can float and stay belly down.
Yeah.
This is a great tactic for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So there's several things there. Yes, you are opening up for a gut, but if you're not worried about the gut, and most freestyle guys aren't worried about a gut, most freestyle guys aren't, right? Greco, it's a little bit different. That's significantly different, right? You're never going to come up. You're never going to raise up like that to all fours because they can't touch your legs. But in freestyle, yes, that I would sit back and I would pressure back. I would get my butt as far back and as deep as I could. And I would get my knees as wide as I could. And I would be using my hands the whole time. And the second he let go of the legs to come back to a gut, now I'm in gut defense. Now I'm going forward.
Okay.
Right. We'll see here. Ah. And so there's another spot where, and he just said, there's another spot where he's attacking that hand for a brief period of time where he's knocking it off as he's sliding that knee forward, possibly. And I see this a lot especially with U15 and U17 kids, when they try to run a lace, this is wide open. If you hip heist down, you're not exposing your back. It's a hip heist. You're rotating your hip and you just slide that knee forward. Now you're out of it. Then you can go back, and go from it. This is something that I see quite a bit. Gut wrench. We'll show this real quick. Just a quick basic gut defense. And this is, once again, we're talking about you can't grab hands. You can't do this. The ref's going to yell. He's going to point finger. He's going to say open, open, open. Okay. But if he yells at me open, but I don't get turned, I'm probably still winning that, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
One of the things you'll see on this, he never creates a fulcrum. So there's never a straight line on his right side or his left side. And that's what he was just talking about. He posts that leg out there. If he seals a side, that leg has to be another anchor. You've got to create another anchor. If he doesn't post that leg, it creates a fulcrum on that side and it's easy to turn. That's why a trapped arm gut is so easy, because it's taking one of the legs off the table, right? It's taking one of that post and it's creating a fulcrum on that side.
Yeah.
See, so he's not grabbing, it's just a quick get over, boom. And this is just preventing the gut getting in, right?
Yep.
So this technical piece was just preventing. My theory on this is kill the dragon. When do you kill a dragon? Let me ask that. When do you kill a dragon?
Oh.
When it's an egg. You don't let that thing grow up. You don't let that thing grow up. It's going to
Yeah.
breathe fire. It's going to burn me up.
Yeah.
It's going to be bigger, faster, stronger, and fly all over the place. I'm going to kill that thing before it even has any chance. I'm going to kill it when it's an egg. And so this is exactly what that's talking about. If you're worried about gut and you're not very good at gut defense whatsoever, if you noticed, he did two things. He stayed sealed and he moved constantly. If you're moving constantly and you can seal and not let them get their hands together,
Yep.
you've killed the dragon before it's ever even gotten out of the egg.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to worry about that problem. And so that's my theory on that. That's my 2 cents or my thought with that is, now I've got a million gut wrench defenses from once they get the lock. Basically, most of them are burning the lock, so to say, or smashing the lock, or finding. You have to find the lock. That's the biggest thing. And if you're fighting them getting the lock very, very hard and with intent, and you know what you're doing, you're going to know where the lock is, and you can find the lock and smash the lock right away. And you can burn it, break it, all of those things from there. And both of those, or all of these, basically just defending the leg lace, same thing. I would prevent it when it's an egg. I would kill it when it's an egg. I would prevent it from happening and getting deep. I would instantly, when I get taken down, my weight's coming back in. My weight's coming back in. My knees are going wide. If it's a gut wrench, if you noticed, his head was always up. He didn't drop his head a whole lot, because when you drop your head, that exposes some areas in your shoulders, to where you can get, they can get their hand under and they can lift that front to get the other arm in. There's a lot of techniques with that. Anything on quick, easy parterre defense? These are just three. I got thousands and thousands of these. These are just three that are probably the most common that I see. It's just that quick hand fighting. You see it, especially at U15, U17, senior level. You go watch them. It's the same thing. They're scooping, they're sealing, and they're constantly. It's a hand fight without hand fighting, right? Like, because we can't hand fight there. We have to stay open, but it's a hand fight. Anything anybody see or comments?
No, we're all good.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, hang on. We're getting through these here. Maybe. We got them all playing at the same time here. Hang on. Wow, that was all of it at once. Hang on. Stop. Stop. There. Whew. Sorry, that was a lot. All right. Last one, last technical side of things. Spin defense. I went over these whenever I was there. Whenever I was down there, we went over these. These are pretty basic. This is why another reason why we do cartwheels and warm-ups. These are acrobatic moves. These are athletic moves, becoming athletic. And so I'm just going to let this play and we can discuss it at the end. He shows several different things to an arm spin and an arm throw defense. And I'm going to let it play. And then at the end, we can just have a brief discussion over it. So this one's getting off the load. I showed this when I was down there. Cartwheel, 2, not 4. We did this when I was down there. So just a correct throw. It's not feet to back. It's a correct throw. He didn't land on the hip. He was cartwheeling over. Here's a change. I showed the hostage. I called a stop sign when I was down there. I just called it a stop sign, just a reverse stop sign. I just got that palm out. This is kind of a float. These are all basic techniques, right? Basic techniques to stop a spin. So these are your floats. Okay, this one we float through. This is part of that float through that we were talking about. Okay. So those are just some basic float through some parterre defense, some of those things. Developmental progression. So now I want to hit this. So now if we're talking about a camp, we're talking about development camp, which is what's going to happen in February, and we're looking at these age groups. I'm going to show you several progressions, developmental progressions, several different plans, long-term athletic development plans. What does it take to be the Olympian, right? When do they start? All so on and so forth. These are from several different countries, several different places, several different coaches. This is just, I want to show you a variety of them. Okay. This coach in this country, they're saying from 4 to 8 years old, gymnastic development, they need to be able to do the front tuck, a back flip, the layout, a back handspring. Okay. By 8 years old. By 12 years old, they should be practicing 4 to 6 hours per week on the mat. And they should be practicing about 6 months. Now this is the elite side. Okay. This is the elite side. I've got a completely different group I'm going to show you here in just a moment. But they need to have the 7 basic skills here. right? The back arch, back step, stance, motion, level change, penetrate, some basic hip blocks, those things on the basic Greco-Roman and women's freestyle side for sure. These are just their basic technical skills in neutral and parterre. Okay. They should start competing locally, not regionally, not nationally, not internationally at this point. This is just local in the gym competition. 12 to 14, and this is going off of this coach. 12 to 14 years old, now you're going up to 6 to 8 hours practice a week, 8 months a year instead of 6 months a year. Now they're starting to compete outside their local gym. Now it's in their local area, and maybe just outside. Okay. 14 to 16-year-olds. So your high school age groups, there's 6 to 10 hours. Like we run ours about an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday here. So they're getting about that 10 hours a week right now of mat time. They should also start competing for national championships, start trying to make the world teams, start some international camps, those things. And they should start at that point deciding, hey, yes, I want to do this. I want to get serious with it, or this is still just a recreational event for me. Okay. That's when they're kind of deciding that. When you get to about 16 years old, according to this coach, then they should be deciding, hey, I'm in or I'm out. This is kind of the latest decision time in his timeline. I've heard many coaches say that there's a window of about 10 years. So if you decide at 16, that gives you till about 26 your peak performance, which if you look at the statistics of the Olympics, right around that is the peak time for the Olympians. 16 years old to retirement, obviously you see it there. Now you're getting educated plans. It's structured. There's domestic competitions. There's international competitions. There's yearly plans that are geared towards the world team trials and the Olympic quad plans. So that's this coach's plan and development. This is USA Wrestling's long-term athlete development. You see, they've got it going vertically. And so ages basically 5 to 12, it's focused on fun. There's more games, activities. There's a daily agility. There's balance, coordination drills. It's only 5 to 12 hours a week at most. And that's for a 12-year-old. So a lot of times I'll tell coaches, however old your child is, if they're 9, the 9 hours is the maximum amount they should be practicing a week. If they're 11, 11 hours. So that kind of gives you a timeline or an easy way to look at it. If you look off of this model, if an athlete is 5 years old, 6 years old, you're looking at, just for us right now, like with my club and with the club that we run and we work with, our club has decided that we call them little ninjas, where they don't compete. They're just learning the rules. They're learning the basic techniques. They're learning the respect for the coaches, officials, all those things, just like this plan shows. They come 3 times a week for 45 minutes. So they're only getting really about 3 hours max of actual on the mat time. As they get older, obviously you see now we're introducing strategies. We're learning solid technique. Over on the right side, 22 and up, now they're getting more speed, strength, endurance, those things. Same thing for parents. This is what they should be looking for in the long-term athlete development plan. On the left side in the red, from ages 5 to go all the way up to 12, it's still that the kids are learning the fundamental movements. Success is not an indicator of success. If they win at 5, 6, 7, 8, that's not saying they're going to be the Olympian, right? Jordan Burroughs didn't even start wrestling till he was in the gray side. So he's had pretty good success. It is okay to ask your child about practice, but respect their privacy, right? If they don't choose, don't force it out of them. Focus on the positives, not the negatives, those things. A lot of times at these age groups, all the way up to 12, children don't fully understand the competition yet. They just want to make the parents happy. And we see this all the time. We drive kids out of the room and out of practices because we throw them in competition. They just want to make mom and dad happy, and they lose. So now all of a sudden they hate losing, right? Because mom and dad hate losing. And I always ask this question. I don't know that a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old, when they get off the mat and they start crying after they lose, do they really understand the work that it takes to earn that victory? Do they truly understand that at the age of 9 or 10? compared to a 20-year-old that's crying after a loss, I think there's a significant difference there. I think one's trying to please somebody else, and one understands the emotions and the work that's went in, right? And sometimes they're crying on the happy side of things. And I don't see many 8, 9-year-olds crying because they're so happy that they won a match. But I do see that a lot of times with 20-year-olds. For parents ages 13 to 17, obviously it's just we're promoting confidence, self-discipline, goal setting, those things, right? Multi-sport, that's the healthiest at that age. 18 to 22. Now, for parents, you need to start trusting your coaches because we're getting a little more specialized, right? 22 and up for parents, obviously it's attention and control, the positive self-talk, right? And start getting them to the competitions they need to be in. Last little thing for coaches here, ages 5 to 8, 2 to 3 practices tops, 45 minutes. Like I said, that's where we're at. It's more tumbling and fun. Free play is over the technical side. An 8-year-old's not going to run a perfect gut wrench. Okay. But they're going to love rolling somebody around. 9 to 12 for coaches, same thing, 60 to an hour and a half, routine and repetition. Now we're starting to get into that, starting to teach them how to drill, teaching them the routine of things. When you get into that high school age, 13 to 17, now we can up the practices. Like I said, ours go 5 days a week, 90 minutes, 90 to about 100 minutes is our practices right now for this age group in the middle. Definitely routines, definitely working on our strength. And then 18, 22, now a little bit higher practice volume. The intensity is up there. It's starting to vary a little bit. And now we're getting into periodization planning. And that's what we've been talking about for the last several weeks, last several calls. And then 22 and up, your senior level, your high performance athletes. Now we're starting to get into sports science. Okay. And we're tracking things. A coach for the development camp. These are questions that I think you need to be asking. What's your why for being invited? Why are you at the development camp? Second thing, what are your strengths and weaknesses within the group? How can you make everybody better? The other coaches, because they're studying you as well. They're learning from you as well, not just the athletes. And then what are your roles and expectations within the camp? Realize it's a development camp. It's not what it is right now. It's what it can become. The Lorax says it, Dr. Seuss, phenomenal. It's not what it is right now. It's what it can become. It's a development camp. You don't know the diamond in the rough just yet. You don't know which kid's going to get something out of it. And everyone has something to contribute to the group that's there. Coach responsibilities. First of all, you need to figure out what are the main goals of the camp. How does that help the development of the campers or the country's progress? Is this focus of the camp, is it on recruitment or is it on retention? Right? The wording of the language of bringing somebody into camp changes, right? With that, if it's focused on recruitment or retention. Are we trying to keep the kids out in longevity over the course of time, or are we trying to recruit them in for the first time? Or are we working on the technique? Is it just a truly, what is the point of the development camp? 2, what are the accountability points to confirm the goals are being met throughout the camp? So does the schedule have all aspects of development in the mental, physical, all of the training, the nutritional side? Are all of those things built in it? And what are the accountability points at the end of the camp, right? At the end of the camp, can I look back and say, hey, this development camp was to work on parterre defense and a match plan strategy for it. At the end of the camp, can I look back and hold myself accountable and hold every coach accountable that those were the things taught? And 3, what's your why for being invited to the camp? And what are your roles and expectations within the camp now that you know the end goal? So I always say work backwards. There are different types of learners. So make sure that we're hitting all of those in every development camp. You have to find that you're starting to learn your athletes. You're starting to learn coaches. How do they best teach? How do they best learn? When I was down there, that's all I was taking notes on, is primarily that's a big portion, was what coaches, how do they learn? How are they teaching things? And what's being receptive by the athletes? What are the risks before the lesson, during the lesson, after the lesson? Safety, can I have high performance without safety? Development camp, this is what I said, we got to work backwards. So what technical aspects of the camp do you want them to take away at the end? So we're leading into February's development camp. That's what this call is about. We're leading into it. What are the aspects of the camp that we want them to take away technically, mentally, and tactically? What's their game plan? What's their strategy? And also, how can we help them mentally? If we're going to say that mental is a huge portion of wrestling, then what are we working on during camp to develop them to be mentally tough, right? Or to be mentally ready? Give you a quick example of one of the camp outlines that I've given in the past. And I've got a couple here that I'll show this. These links are available. Realize that coaching, it's an ongoing process. We're continuing to learn and how to be our own best coach, right? Here is a flip to the example. Here's an example. I don't know. Can you guys see this? Can somebody let me know? Can you see this?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Perfect. So if you notice, I've got it color coordinated. That's probably more my OCD than anything. But this is just a Greco-Roman focus area for a camp that I did. This is day one. And this kind of gives you a little bit of it. You see the athletes arrive 10:30 to 1. They're arriving 1:30 to 3. You can see we're going to work contact and push. It's in green. Stance and motion in gray, which is more specific. And you can see kind of a timeline. I have exactly at what times we're doing what. We're warming the team up with guts, lift, all of these things. Okay. I've got a way more detailed one as far as the practice planning. That's the other link in that thing. Then we got dinner, but I've got everything. At the end of camp, I can hold myself accountable. I can look back and say, we covered contact, push. We covered our stance, motion, level change, penetration, all of those things with this. Because you can see each day is scripted. So day one, we got stance and motion. Day two, you can see right here is level change, right? Day three, now it's stance, motion, level change. So now I've tied all three of those together, right? Now we're getting into penetrate. Now on day three, we're starting to hit the penetrate. So I can go through and I can see this, my tactics and the strategy with that. And so that's what I'm meaning by when I say that's accountable. 5 ways to tell that you're a trained coach. Obviously, you've taken a course. We talked about this last time. You're knowledgeable about teaching, familiar with this age group guidelines and equipment. You know about the development. You know you can promote safe, fun growth, and all of the different development models. So now if you're a trained coach, you're in a development camp, you've got a plan, you've worked backwards on this. This is exactly now you can also look at this and you can add in what is coaching or what you need to coaching to apply it to the plan. If the periodization plan is for world team trials or for the Olympics or for just a local gym competition, what are the clear goals? What does the structure of the training cycles look like within the camp? And are we manipulating them? Are we changing this up quite a bit? Those are things that you need to just ask yourself quick questions when you're doing this. This is obviously a plan. How's it looking? How's it going? Are we recovering appropriately? Are we overtraining? Is the communication there? Are the coaches listening? Are the athletes listening to this? As you go through a development camp, these are the exact same thing. What are the changes that the athletes are saying? Is it the most structure that they've had? Some of them, it's a development camp. It's the first time they've been in a camp where they're trying to develop either a specific tactical or a technical side or a mental side of things. What are the athletes saying about those 3 pieces that we've added into a development camp? Are we truly developing the athlete to start asking these questions and to start saying things? What about the coaches? Is there anything that's going on within that? The risk management, what's the risk factors of that? I think the risk is if you go in and you can't hold yourself accountable at the end of the camp, you don't know what you've taught. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I would say the majority of the time, it's going to go in the favor of the not. So you need to study that. What does your camp, at the end of the day, what do you want to get out of it? What is the win for you? What is the win for the athlete? What is the win for all the campers and the country in the middle of it? So look at those risks. What's the risk factors of not working backwards, from backwards to front? How do we reduce it? By doing that, by starting at the back, guaranteeing that these are the 3 things I want to get out of camp. These are the 3 things I'm going to get. right? And then we plan accordingly, and we monitor the development camp and the stage. So this is the same thing, that we've talked about. These are some of the same slides, but I applied them there. And bottom line, here's the last thing. What is or what was their takeaway from a development camp? What do you want them to get to take away from it? And what are they actually taking away? Can they apply it to their match plan? Can they apply it to their goals, to their strategy? And I do that with all of the camps that we do. Bottom line, does the development camp plan stay in line with the long-term athletic development plan? Does it stay in their periodization plan of staying in the sport, whether they're a recreation athlete, or does it stay in the plan of developing them to become the next Olympic champion? The last question that I've got for tonight, what's the win-win? What's the win-win for you? What's the win-win for your athletes? Just like I was talking about with Coach Bud earlier, is what's the win for him taking a 201 course? What's the win for him as a coach that's been around the sport for a long time? What's the win for him getting into this officials course that he just took? What's the win for him in that, right? But at the same time, what's the win for the athlete that's underneath him getting out of that? And when you go to a development camp, why would I go to a development camp? What's the win for that? And I really look at those whenever I put these places in, is what's the win for you to get on? What's the win for me to get on? For the athletes, for the coaches, all of those things. Any questions? Anything? I've covered, I threw a lot, and I know it's kind of down to you and I know time has kicked us off here a little bit, but I'll send this out to several things, but any thoughts or any questions you got, Coach?
Yeah, a
Pretty
lot.
well done.
Just to try to formalize and put them into words is difficult. I need time to process all of this and to put some thoughts on paper.
Sure, because
That's how I work. Is I need to sit back and think about things.
Yes, no, and that's great because we have all different types of learners, right? And so I can share this presentation, shoot me a quick email, I send it in the link, I'll send it right back to you. And then that way you have time to process it, you have time to click on links, you have time to go through it at your speed and get out of it what you want to get out of it. Because for a newer wrestler, what's the win for them? And that's your job as a coach for that wrestler. If they're striving to be the high performance athlete, that's a completely different ballgame, right? And that's a completely different periodization plan. And that's great. And that's going to be way more in depth, but there's a win-win for every athlete, I believe, in all of this because it's long-term athletic. If they want to be a recreational wrestler all of their lives, how do we get to where we are not their last coach? Because that's what we don't want to be, is their last coach. Right. And so, yeah, no, that's awesome. Coach Strada, anything for you? Anything that you saw or stuck out that was like, wait a minute, I need to think about this more, or I really like this?
I think as you mentioned, just having that plan in place, making sure it's a win-win ahead of these camps, development camps or high performance training camps, just making sure it is a win-win and everyone's getting a takeaway from it.
Outstanding. And you're in camp right now. And that's one of the most easy ways to evaluate is, hey, we go into this practice, we go into this session and we're supposed to be working takedowns. So you said hand fighting, you were working hand fighting and stuff earlier. At the end of practice, can you look back? And if you ask the athletes, hey, what was one thing you got out of hand fighting? If they're hesitant or they're not necessarily, there's nothing new or there's nothing that was cleaned up, then that's something as a coach that we can go back to the drawing board and, hey, I need to teach this in maybe a different way, or I need to do something a little bit different to improve. Or if they come back on the flip side and they're like, man, that was outstanding, I've never seen this before, and I got this, then hey, you hit the nail on the head and you can look back and be like, hey, my plan was hand fighting. He came out and said, man, I'm really getting my 2-on-1s or my underhooks or my front head or whatever, my position better. Then hey, you knocked it out of the park. It was awesome. You did a great job, and that was spot on. And okay, that's an easy self-evaluation for a coach, right? So, and camps are an easy way to do it, but camps are also an easy way to get going down a rabbit hole. And at the end of the camp, you look back and, man, I was supposed to work parterre defense, and we got caught up in hand fighting, and we never went back to that because we needed more work in that. And so you have to hold yourself accountable to stay on the plan and stay, accordingly. Not that you can't deviate and you can change, because you got to keep that variable in there, but maybe you variate the warm up on the next plan. Right. So there's always constant adjustment. But hey, I appreciate you guys' time. I know we're past time. I apologize. But I love the comments. I love the questions. Let's keep this interaction. And if you guys want to set up a one-on-one call, shoot me some times that work for you and we can set up. And if you have specific questions, or you want a specific video, or you want whatever, even if I'm in the middle of my room, I'll just grab somebody and we'll work through it together. So I would love to have you guys coach some of my athletes up here. I ran practices all over the world through Zoom. So, anything I can do for you guys, don't hesitate. Reach out to me. If you want this link, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, whatever, a message. I will make sure you get to it and you can process it. And Coach Estrada, if you'll send this, I know Andre was in the middle of a session, all that. You can, same thing. If you can share some of this out with them, that'd be awesome. Because I'd love to have the athletes respond as well, because, this is a big piece for them as well. So.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep. Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Have a great week. Yep. All right.